March 18th, 1945, near the Rhine River, Western Germany. The night is so quiet, you can almost hear the frost forming on the tank barrels. To the east, a few scattered lights flicker across the horizon, a faint glow of distant farmhouses. To the west, a strange mechanical hum rolls through the darkness. German sentries along the line at Wesel shift nervously. The sound is familiar, but something's off. It's the low, throaty growl of armored engines, many of them echoing through the fog. But the earth doesn't tremble. Vibrations aren't right. One soldier, Obergefreiter Karl Fischer, presses his ear to the frozen ground. He hears tanks moving, dozens, maybe hundreds, approaching from the southwest, but the rumble fades, then returns again, like a ghost passing through walls. Amerikanische Panzer, he whispers. American tanks. The others stiffen. Across the line, field telephones crackle. Ports flood into divisional command. Massive armor movements detected near the riverbank. Reconnaissance is ordered immediately. When the scouts crawl forward through the mist, they see nothing. No tanks, no soldiers, no tracks in the mud. Only the faint hiss of static, and somewhere in the dark, a record player looping the same sound over and over. Hours earlier, a convoy of unmarked trucks had arrived in this exact spot. Their drivers wore no unit insignia, plain olive drab. They worked in silence, unloading strange equipment, inflatable tanks, canvas half-tracks, wooden artillery barrels. Every motion was rehearsed, every illusion perfect. These men weren't ordinary soldiers. They were painters, sound engineers, and radio technicians from New York and Chicago, members of a top-secret unit officially known as the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. For the few who knew, they were called something else, the Ghost Army. Their mission was simple, but terrifying. Pretend to be an entire division of the U.S. Army. Make the Germans believe they were facing 30,000 men, when in truth fewer than 1,100 stood in the fields that night. By midnight, the hills were alive with illusions. Canvas Shermans loomed in moonlight, their air-filled hulls swaying gently in the breeze. Loudspeakers mounted on jeeps blasted recordings of tank tracks and shouted commands. Portable radio units transmitted fake chatter, mimicking the frequency of the 30th Infantry Division. It was theater, war as performance art. But in this theater, a single mistake cost real lives. As the deception began, Lieutenant Fred Fox, one of the Ghost Army's tactical artists, leaned against his truck, sketchbook in hand. The moonlight caught his tired smile. "We're painting ghosts," he murmured. Somewhere across the river, the real Ninth Army was preparing for the Rhine crossing. Their survival depended on this illusion holding, on the enemy believing what wasn't there. If the Germans attacked here, thousands of men on the real front would die. So the artists worked through the night, crafting a masterpiece of sound and shadow, one that would change the course of the war without a single shot fired. But as dawn broke, strange shapes began to move in the fog. Someone was watching them. A German recon patrol had stumbled too close, and now the ghosts would be tested for the first time. March 19th, 1945. Fog hasn't lifted, thick enough to taste, cold metallic damp that clings to the skin. Somewhere in the gray, the rumble of diesel engines still echoes. This time, it isn't coming from a speaker, it's coming from the east. Through binoculars, Sergeant Ralph Ingersoll of the Ghost Army spots the silhouettes first. Faint figures moving low through the mist, freezes, and then whispers into his field phone. "We've got movement. Eastern tree line." He lowers the glasses. They're close. Too close. Inside the American lines, the illusion is in full swing. Rows of inflatable Sherman tanks line the ridge, each one anchored with thin ropes that blend into the mud. Fake half-tracks sit in neat formations beside tents, painted markings copying those of the 30th Infantry Division. Every sound, every radio transmission, every scrap of detail has been engineered to fool the enemy's eyes and ears. None of it will matter if the Germans walk right up and touch the tanks. The patrol creeps closer. 6 men, rifles ready. One stops, kneels, and studies a tank through his scope. He frowns. It isn't moving. Shadows look strange. He signals another soldier to flank left. Inside a nearby jeep, a U.S. sound technician cranks up the volume, corded treads clanking and gears grinding. The ground hums with the illusion of life. The German hesitates. The sound seems real, too real. He squints through the fog. That's when a pair of P-47s, real ones, thunder overhead, banking low and fast across the tree line. The German patrol drops into the mud. In that instant, their minds make the connection. Aircraft cover, tanks, engine noise. It must be an American armored division. They crawl backward, vanishing into the haze. The moment passes. Collective breath of relief sweeps through the Ghost Army camp. No one speaks for a long while. Then one of the men, Private Jack Macy, lets out a quiet laugh. Guess they bought tickets to the show. By afternoon, the division is alive. Smoke generators spill white clouds over the valley, simulating campfires and exhaust. Engineers paint fake tracks in the mud using rollers and ropes. Every truck and tent look lived in, Mess kits, helmets, laundry strung between poles. They even park empty jeeps near crossroads to imply heavy patrols. Nothing is left to chance. Meanwhile, miles away, German intelligence intercepts the radio chatter. It's convincing. Code words, officer names, movement orders, all lifted from real transmissions of nearby divisions. To Wehrmacht command, it looks like the U.S. 30th Infantry Division has massed near Wesel, preparing to cross the Rhine. They bite. Orders are issued that night to reinforce the wrong sector, shifting artillery and armor north to meet the Phantom Army. The real Ninth Army, further south, suddenly finds the defenses before them weakening. Their bridgeheads, once thought impossible, now look achievable. The illusion is working. The ghosts are winning. But inside the camp, as night falls again, tension simmers. If one German prisoner escapes and tells the truth, the entire deception collapses. And word is spreading that enemy spotter planes are coming at dawn. How do you hide an army that doesn't exist from the sky? March 20th, 1945. Dawn breaks over the Rhine Valley in a wash of gray and pale gold. The mist clings stubbornly to the ground, swirling around the fake Shermans and wooden artillery like smoke from an unseen fire. High above, a small reconnaissance plane hums into view. A German Fiesler 156, Storch, its tiny engine buzzing faintly. The pilot scans the landscape, eyes sharp for movement. Below, the Ghost Army holds its breath. Every man is still. Every sound is calculated. Even the wind becomes part of the deception. Lieutenant Fred Fox signals. The sound team cranks up the pre-recorded rumble of tanks. Wooden planks attached to metal drums clatter across the ground. The army is moving. The Storch banks low. The pilot's eyes widen. Rows of tanks, half-tracks, artillery, and soldiers appear to stretch across the valley. The German pilot scribbles frantically in his notebook. 30,000 men? Impossible. Yet every detail convinces him. Smoke curls from the fake engine stacks. Soldiers wave and march in precise patterns. The illusion is so perfect that even he cannot believe it. He radios back to Divisional HQ. Enemy armored division concentrated near Wesel. Movement observed. Back on the ground, German artillery observers notice the tanks as well. They report positions, sizes, and strengths. Orders fly along the wires. Batteries are shifted, reserves called forward. Real soldiers march to face phantoms. The Ghost Army engineers, meanwhile, maintain a delicate ballet. Inflatable tanks are repositioned by pulleys. Sound machines are recalibrated. Fake tracks are dragged through the mud to simulate armored maneuvers. Every element must be precise. A single mistake could reveal the illusion. Private Jack Macy peers through his binoculars at a troop of German infantry advancing cautiously. They stop, confused by the smoke and movement. A row of inflatable tanks fires blanks into the fog. Engineers produce muffled explosions from concealed speakers. The Germans jump back, unsure if the enemy is real or ghostly. The tension is almost unbearable. And then, a soldier's eyes widen in disbelief. One of the Germans whispers to his comrade, Are these real tanks? By mid-morning, the Ghost Army has done what seemed impossible. They have manipulated the enemy's perception of an entire division. German commanders divert forces, pull back units, and reinforce positions that don't exist. Thousands of men on the real front now have a safer path across the Rhine. Thousands of lives are being saved without a single bullet being fired. But not everyone is convinced. From the tree line, scouts report inconsistencies. The tanks don't leave tracks like real armor. The gun barrels don't move. The soldiers stand too still. Tension rises. If the Germans realize the deception, the entire operation could collapse. And as the sun rises higher, a low hum begins, louder than any sound machine. Something real is approaching. The first real American armor to support the crossing is nearly here, but will the illusion hold until then? March 20th, 1945. Late morning. The fog has begun to lift, leaving the valley bathed in a cold, pale light. The Rhine glimmers quietly in the distance, its waters deceptively calm. German scouts crouch in the underbrush, uneasy. They've seen the tanks, heard the engines, felt the tremors of movement, but every instinct screams at them, something is wrong. Meanwhile, in the Ghost Army camp, Lieutenant Fred Fox watches through his binoculars. "Hold your positions," he whispers, voice taut with tension. "Don't break the illusion." A small German reconnaissance squad emerges from the trees. 5 men, rifles raised, their eyes sweep across the valley. To the Americans, this is the ultimate test. One misstep, one visible flaw in the illusion, and the Germans will know the truth. Private Jack Macy nudges a canvas Sherman with a gloved hand. The tank wobbles just slightly. He freezes. A German soldier steps closer. For a heartbeat, the entire valley is silent. The sound of a distant river, the creak of wooden wheels, the faint rustle of wind in the canvas. Then the Germans hear it, the low, rhythmic rumble of engines growing louder. It isn't real. It's coming from hidden speakers, perfectly timed. The ground seems alive with movement. The Germans hesitate, exchanging worried glances. Their voices are barely audible. 30? Tanks? Maybe more, one murmurs. Another points nervously toward the smoke drifting from the fake exhaust stacks. They're hiding something. Maybe reinforcements, artillery. The squad retreats. Their report will reach divisional command, adding credibility to the illusion. Behind the scenes, the Ghost Army works feverishly. Artists drag large brushes through the mud, leaving tracks that mimic armored maneuvers. Sound engineers reposition speakers to create the impression of continuous movement. Radio operators transmit fake messages with officer names, platoon numbers, and troop rotations. Every detail is designed to convince the Germans that a full division has concentrated here. A phantom army larger than reality could ever produce. And it works. By mid-afternoon, German command orders a realignment of their units, sending reinforcements miles north to counter the phantom threat. Meanwhile, the real U.S. Ninth Army is approaching the Rhine under the cover of this deception. Tanks, infantry, and engineers move freely towards the river crossings, their progress hidden by the illusions crafted by the Ghost Army. Lieutenant Fred Fox allows himself a small smile, but tension remains high. One wrong move, one premature exposure could undo everything. And as the real American armor finally rumbles into position on the far side of the valley, the Germans have no idea the war they thought they were fighting against 30,000 men has actually been against a handful of artists and technicians. The true miracle of the Ghost Army is just beginning to reveal itself. March 20th, 1945. Late afternoon. The sun is low now, casting long shadows over the valley. The fake Shermans sway gently in the breeze, their inflatable hulls catching flecks of sunlight that make them appear solid, imposing, real. Smoke curls from the mock exhaust stacks, mingling with the early evening mist. German artillery commanders, convinced they face a full division, adjust their firing coordinates. Cannons boom in the distance, targeting positions that don't exist. Shells explode harmlessly into empty fields. Inside the Ghost Army camp, Lieutenant Fred Fox and his team watch the carnage, or what seems like carnage. There's no panic, no blood, no cries, only the knowledge that their deception is saving lives on the true front lines. Private Jack Macy kneels by one of the inflatable Shermans, adjusting its ropes so it leans slightly forward. "We've got them right where we want them," he whispers, eyes fixed on the German positions. For the German soldiers, confusion reigns. Scouts report phantom movements that change by the hour. Where tanks seemed to mass at dawn, they now appear to have relocated hundreds of meters north. Infantry appears where none could realistically be. Artillery seems to shift with almost magical precision. Colonel Wilhelm Hoffmann, commanding a nearby German regiment, is growing frustrated. He pulls his maps close, compares reports, and frowns. They are too fast, too coordinated. No division moves like this. The realization begins to sink in. Something is not right. The German soldiers on the front line feel it too, unease creeping into their boots, a cold doubt biting at their confidence. They had mocked the Americans' lack of numbers only days ago. Now, every shadow, every sound, every movement tell them otherwise. The Ghost Army engineers exploit this hesitation ruthlessly. Speakers move subtly from hill to hill, shifting the apparent direction of advancing troops. Inflatable tanks are rotated to simulate reinforcements arriving from different directions. Fake artillery fire echoes through concealed amplifiers. To the Germans, it feels like a living, breathing army, growing larger with each passing hour. And then, the final stroke. The real American Ninth Army begins its push across the Rhine, hidden by the Ghost Army's illusion.
Artillery barrages begin miles away from the fake tanks. Infantry columns surge across the river. German commanders are still focused on the phantom threat to the north, diverting attention and resources from the true point of attack. By nightfall, thousands of real American soldiers have crossed safely, completely unseen by the enemy. For the first time, the soldiers in the Ghost Army allow themselves a moment to relax. The deception has worked. The enemy has been manipulated completely, a victory without a single shot fired from their hands. Yet, as night descends, Lieutenant Fox surveys the valley. He knows this is only one battle. Tomorrow, the illusion must hold again. One mistake, one glimpse of reality